If a monster wore a mask and smiled at you, would you recognize it? Ted Bundy was smart, charming, polite.
My name is Ted Bundy. I've never spoken to anybody about this.
He could have been your classmate, your co-worker, your neighbor. And yet, he was one of the most brutal serial killers in American history. The real question isn't just what he did, it's what he never told us. This is the Criminal Index, and today we're asking, what secrets did Ted Bundy take to the grave? Let's start with the basics. Ted Bundy looked like the perfect guy. He was clean-cut, educated, ambitious, a law student, a volunteer at a suicide hotline. People liked him. Women were drawn to him. Men admired him. He wasn't a loner or a weirdo hiding in the shadows. That's what made him so dangerous. Because behind all of that charm was a man who stalked, kidnapped, and murdered. He admitted to killing at least 30 women across several states in the 1970s. But the real number? Some say it could be much higher. Why? Because Bundy was a liar, a manipulator, a man who played games, even with his confessions. Bundy wasn't the kind of guy to come clean. He denied everything, until the very end. In the final days before his execution in 1989, he started talking, but only bits and pieces, and only to certain people. He confessed to murders in Washington, Utah, Colorado, and Florida, but his timeline was full of gaps. He'd say things like, "There are things I'll never talk about," or he'd hint at murders, then refuse to give names or dates. He once told investigators,
I've never spoken to anybody about this. I am looking for an opportunity.
Add another digit to that 30 if you want the real number. So why didn't he tell the full truth? Because Bundy was always in control. Confession was a tool, a way to bargain, to delay, to keep people interested in him. Even on death row, he was the one holding the cards. To this day, there are dozens of unsolved cases from the 1970s that look eerily similar to Bundy's methods. Young women, dark hair, parted in the middle, vanished without a trace. There's the case of Anne-Marie Burr, an 8-year-old girl from Bundy's own neighborhood. She disappeared in 1961 when Bundy was just 14. Some believe she was his first victim. He never admitted it, but her body was never found. Then there's the Oregon disappearances, the New Jersey hitchhiker, the girls from Idaho and California, cases that were never officially tied to him. But the pattern matches. And Bundy? He stayed silent. Sometimes he'd smirk, sometimes he'd change the subject, but he never gave those families closure. Bundy didn't just kill, he escaped twice from custody. In 1977, he jumped out of a second-story courthouse window in Colorado. They caught him a few days later. Later that year, he escaped again, this time from jail, by crawling through a hole in the ceiling. He lost weight just to fit through the opening. Then he disappeared. What happened next was horrifying. He made it all the way to Florida, where he murdered again. At the Chi Omega sorority house, he bludgeoned and strangled multiple women in one night. And during that time on the run, he could have killed others we don't even know about. No one knows where he was for days, and he never filled in the blanks. In 1979, Bundy was on trial in Florida. And get this, he chose to represent himself. He cross-examined witnesses, objected in court. He even proposed to a woman in the courtroom during trial. It was bizarre, chilling, like a performance. And the public couldn't look away. Cameras rolled. Bundy smiled. He acted like a celebrity. But underneath it all, he never really confessed. Even after being sentenced to death, he dribbled out partial truths, never the whole story. In the days before his execution, Bundy finally started talking, not out of guilt, but to try to delay the inevitable. He gave interviews to FBI agents, psychologists, and journalists. He described how he killed. He talked about necrophilia, about returning to crime scenes, but still, He held back. He said, "There are things I will never talk about because they're too horrible." Why? Maybe he wanted to take power to the grave. Maybe he couldn't face what he'd done. Or maybe there are more victims we'll never know about. So what secrets did Ted Bundy take to the grave? The names and stories of victims never found. The full number of people he killed. His real first murder. The places he hid evidence or buried bodies. And what truly drove him to do what he did. He could have helped bring closure to families. He could have told the full truth, but he chose silence. And in that silence, he left behind mystery, fear, and hundreds of unanswered questions. Bundy wasn't a monster with fangs or claws. He was a monster in a suit and tie. He showed us that evil doesn't always look evil, that predators can smile, shake your hand, look completely normal. That's what makes his story terrifying and important, because even though Ted Bundy is gone, the secrets he kept still haunt us.